Okay, so what if a divine message wasn't hidden away in some ancient scroll, but was sitting right there in a line of code, or maybe a pop culture reference? Well, that's pretty much the core question of this fascinating and really cryptic digital document we're going to dive into. It's just one chapter from a bigger, mysterious work called Omens Foretold, and its title is simple: The Doorway.
Right off the bat, this thing hits you with a pretty radical idea. It basically says, forget the notion that truth is locked up in specific ancient languages. Instead, it argues that you can find these patterns of truth in any language, or really, any system of information at all. I mean, that's a wild claim that completely changes how you'd even begin to look for meaning.
So, what is this thing exactly? Where did it even come from? Let's treat this like an investigation. We're going to be detectives here, piecing together the clues that are hidden inside the text itself to try and figure out its origins. And the history this document claims for itself is, well, it's bizarre, to say the least. It says the story starts with a letter from 1985. Then, it claims its original C++ code was hidden in a book at Bell Labs, of all places, only to be printed out on some old-school dot matrix printer in the 90s, and then finally it gets uploaded in some vague post-war era by an anonymous source. Yeah, that's not a history, that's a riddle.
Okay, so now the document really puts its money where its mouth is. It takes that whole finding patterns anywhere philosophy and uses it to build this series of layered riddles. And it all kicks off with 4 lines of text that look pretty simple at first.
It all begins with these 4 lines. 1 line, 9 ols, 5 tishris, 5 heshvans. Now on the surface, you'd probably just think, okay, it's a list of dates, maybe something from the Hebrew calendar. But as you're about to see, nothing in this document is ever that straightforward. And here is where that pattern-seeking idea just clicks into place. The riddle is you have to ignore the second column and look at the first column in a totally new way. Instead of reading across, you have to read down. And when you do that, the words 1, 9, 5, and 5 suddenly stop being a list and become a sequence of numbers.
And boom, there it is, 1955. This is a perfect illustration of the document's logic. It takes these seemingly separate lines, connects them with a hidden pattern, and generates this single, really significant number. And that number, 1955, is basically the key that unlocks the next layer.
So why 1955? What's the big deal? This is where it gets really clever, especially when you think about the document's supposed origin in the mid-80s. It points to 2 massive pop culture touchstones. First, it's the year Marty McFly travels to in Back to the Future. And second, it's a year that gets a big shout-out in the AC/DC song Let There Be Rock. So see? This isn't just some random number. It's a cultural key. But we are just getting started. The rabbit hole goes way deeper. The document starts breaking 1955 apart, reinterpreting it in these increasingly weird ways. 19, 5, and 5 become the word see, like a warning. 1 and 95 are twisted into a reference to Psalm 119, or maybe even a reversed 911. And then, and this one is a truly bizarre leap, 1, 9, and 55 are read as AI 55, connecting artificial intelligence to a numerical value for Satan. It's pretty clear at this point we're not just solving a puzzle, we're being led down a very specific and very strange path.
And the complexity just keeps building. Now the document takes that exact same pattern-seeking logic and applies it to one of the most foundational texts in history, the Book of Genesis. The claim? That it can calculate the precise date of creation.
Now the key to this next puzzle is a single word, deleth. It's a Hebrew term that means a doorway or a swinging gate. And according to the document, this word is the solution you get from a really complex puzzle that combines a letter count from Genesis with letters from that first riddle. That whole doorway symbol? Yeah, it's not an accident. It's central to this entire thing.
The key, the document claims, is hiding in plain sight, right inside this one super famous verse. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Both the month and the day of creation are supposedly encoded right there in those words.
And the method it uses is surprisingly direct. In the King James Version of the Bible, that verse has exactly 10 words. 10 words, 10th month, so October. Then it isolates the phrase, created the heaven and the earth. You count the letters in that phrase, and you get 27. And there's your 27th day.
A third riddle gives us the last piece we need, the year, 3761 BCE. So when you put that together with the month and day, the document presents these two incredibly specific dates as the starting point for the week of creation, and it even maps them across both the Hebrew and our modern calendars.
So all of this leads us to the final part. And frankly, it's the strangest part of this whole document. We go from ancient texts in numerology to two modern Python scripts that seem to have, well, a personality of their own.
These scripts are presented as updated, transcribed versions of that original C++ code, the one that was supposedly found tucked inside a book at Bell Labs back in 1985. So they're meant to be a direct link to the document's mysterious origins.
And this is where it gets really weird. The first program, it's just a simple text analyzer. But if you run it and then you take too long to quit, it doesn't just wait. It starts talking to you, displaying this series of sarcastic and increasingly impatient prompts. It acts less like a program and more like some kind of bored, sentient AI.
But this behavior isn't just a funny little quirk, it's another puzzle. If you just outwait the first program, it gets so frustrated that it just gives up and gives you a password. The second program, though, is locked from the start. It demands a specific username, infinity, and a passphrase, Trinity, to grant access. This pretty much confirms these aren't just tools for analysis. They're interactive gateways, and they're waiting for the right user.
Which, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. After decoding pop culture riddles, calculating creation's date, and running into a literal ghost in the machine, what is this document a doorway to? Is it just an elaborate puzzle, a piece of prophetic fiction, or is it the interface for some truly strange AI? The doorway gives us the keys, but what lies on the other side? Well, that remains the biggest mystery of all.